Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast, a podcast you come to when you're finally ready to take fantasy hockey seriously. My name is Groot Nibbelink. I'm the creator of Apples Ginos, originator of the Zero-G draft strategy, and in this episode, Ryan and I are going to tell you how to win in Week 22 of the fantasy hockey season. Let's get it. And I do not have your friend and my best friend Blake Creamer here with me, but again, I am auditioning new potential best friends, and I have a strong candidate here. Ryan of Trade Talks fame has joined the pod for the Waiver show here. Ryan, how are we feeling?
Yeah, feeling great. I just gotta say, I'm a great best friend to many friends, and I'm happy you're considering my audition. I'm really excited to get on this show. Over at Trade Talks, we were pretty jealous of you guys crossing the streams all the time, so we had to get in on it. But we're only able to get a little bit of streaming sprinkle lately. So happy to really get crossing the stream fully with you tonight.
All right, we'll definitely get to some of that, and I don't know. It's a tough act to follow, Blake, when it comes to crossing the streams, but we'll see what happens throughout the course of the evening. Well, let's get into it with some Newsies to get us started here. And we've got some big ones off the top with Minnesota. Kaprizov will miss his second straight game with a lowy body injury. Jeek still out as well, but Coach Jay Hines said that both will return in the near future. I watched a little bit of the Minnesota game the other day, and it did not look like the Minnesota attack we have come to know since Quinns and Hughes joined. Hughes and Boldy are still obviously pretty terrific, but definitely when you replace Jeek and Cap with guys like Hartman and Tarasenko, there's a little bit of a drop off in talent that you're dealing with there. So that will definitely affect Minnesota. And honestly, it does kind of lower the ceiling for some of your other players there, like Zuccarello, like Boldy, like Hughes as well, while those guys are out. So keep your eyes on them. Obviously, this time of year, we're not going to have even less information than we usually do, but that is something to keep in mind. Over to Anaheim, Troy Terry is still managing his recent injury. He is playing, but he missed Friday's skate. He could miss a game or two moving forward, so keep your eye on that. Mason McTavish got back into the lineup, so check the box score there. I don't think I'm going back to the Mason McTavish well at this point in the fantasy season in my fantasy playoffs. That would be a bridge too far for me, but something to keep in mind. I mean, they're locked into this guy for term and money, so something's got to give there at some point. But I just have my doubts that it'll be this season. How do you feel about McTavish? Do you still feel there's potential for this season, next season? Where are you at?
I got minimal feelings about Mason McTavish. He was practicing with Leo Carlson and Chris Kreider, which was it was like, oh, okay, but that's Troy Terry's spot, and Terry is playing tonight, so McTavish is probably starting on the fourth line here. So really nothing. I'll dive in the off season to see if I get excited about him next year, but I'm with you. Not excited this year.
Yeah. Fair enough there. Let's talk about Victor Hedman. He missed the final two periods in Thursday's game. It sounds like he's dealing with an illness, so another one to keep your eyes on. But yeah, honestly, Hedman has not been the Hedman of old at any point really throughout this season. Been dealing with injury, been getting less minutes as they've relied on Darren Radish more and more. But something more to consider. It might just be time to retire the Victor Hedman on your roster at this point. It is tough because it's still Tampa. Tampa, with as long as Nikita Kucherov is healthy, they could score 6 goals in any given game, as they did most recently. And Hedman can get in on some of that when he is healthy, but it has been a tough run, no doubt. Shane Gostisbehere will miss or is missing currently Friday's game against the Leafs. That's 7 straight games. This was after Coach Rod Brind'Amour said that he'd only miss a couple, so that's not ideal. Maybe a little bit of gamesmanship from RBA, but also maybe not a great sign overall for Gostisbehere about his potential return at any point in these fantasy playoffs. Nikishin obviously is getting the power play one, but really not much other time on ice to note. And so, yeah, that is unfortunate because I do think there's a really interesting fantasy asset with Nikishin, big time banger as well. So the peripherals would be there. But if he's not going to get even like modicum of even strength ice time, it's going to be really tough to roster him. And Tyler Toffoli is ruled out already for Saturday's game with a lower body injury. That probably means William Eklund going to power play one. So something there to monitor with the San Jose Sharks. Over to the Leafs. Nyes has been battling a knee injury basically all season, says he'll play out the remainder of the year. I think it's been pretty obvious. He started the season pretty hot and then really fell off. It's very obvious to anyone who watches the Leafs on a regular basis that he doesn't look anything like himself. And so yeah, I still think he's probably playable in most leagues, but he's definitely getting towards that edge where you're like, I don't know if I have to roster Matthew Nyes if he's not going to be playing for me on some heavy nights. So is that where you're at too, Ryan, or what are you feeling about Matthew Nyes these
Yeah,
days?
that's where I'm at. And I was actually before his decline, I was still biased from last season. I was out on Nyes. I was just like, no way. Everyone's getting way too excited for him. And then he proved me wrong. So I still have that bias from last season in the back of my mind. So as he started to decline this season, I'm like, yeah, that's right. That's who Matthew Nyes is. And yeah, so I've been out on him for a bit.
Fair enough. UC Saros day to day with a lower body injury. Matt Murray was called up there. I don't think you're rostering Nashville goalies too much at this point, even if you're pretty desperate, but at least you have the info now. And Anton Lundell is banged up, missing Friday's game as Florida continues to avoid icing an NHL lineup at all costs. I think they have once again found a masterful way of avoiding avoiding any semblance of the rules that other teams play by, which seems to be their MO, and credit to them for doing it. All right, that's it for Newsies. Ryan, you ready to attack this schedule with me?
Oh yeah, let's attack
All right. Well, unfortunately, it's a pretty terrible schedule. Monday, we get
it.
one game. Tuesday, we get 15 games. Wednesday, 2 games. Thursday, 13 games. Friday, 2 games. Saturday, 15 games. And Sunday, 6 games. I don't know why the NHL does this to us. It's painful on all fronts. It's not good for watching. I understand that like sometimes you might get into this like naturally over the course of the season where like the every other schedule that you're trying to work in just ends up with a bunch of people playing on the same nights. But to this extent is pretty wild, and it's really unfortunate that it's coming in the midst of our fantasy playoffs. But we soldier on. It is 54 total game played week. That's kind of normal in the grand scheme of things in terms of that total volume. There's only one team with Sunday, Monday back to back. That is the New York Rangers. We've been talking about the Rangers for a number of weeks and how great their playoff schedule is. So, probably a lot of those players are gone in your leagues, but just one more reason to roster some Rangers heading into week 22. The Rangers are also the only team with a Monday, Wednesday off night schedule. There are 2 teams with Wednesday and Friday off nights, the Rangers and the Buffalo Sabres, and 2 teams with Friday, Sunday off nights, the Rangers and the Chicago Blackhawks. It looks a little something like this if you look at the schedule planner over on Dauber on Frozen Tools. Yeah, it's just a horrific streaming week. I think basically you have a few major options that stick out to me. New York Rangers players are obvious, but you could also go with Buffalo for that Wednesday, Friday, and then go goalie streams to close out the week. You could do the goalie streams a little bit up front and then maybe grab a Chicago player at the end of the week for the Friday, Sunday. Also, if you have any Ottawa Senators, kind of fringe Ottawa Senators on your roster, make sure you're holding on to them to get that Monday game in first before you do anything else. Am I missing anything there, Ryan? I feel like there's not a lot of maneuvering that we're able to do this week.
Yeah, the only thing, this might be a hot take. I'm like kind of intrigued and happy about this terrible week because it's going to separate the fantasy experts or the fantasy managers that are really prepared from those who aren't. Because if you haven't looked ahead by now and you're not going to look ahead until next week, you're just going to end up benching like 4 or 5 year guys on these heavy nights. And this is an opportunity where we've been talking about it all season or the second half of the season. And it's been, yeah, like in one of my leagues that I'm in a bye week, I'm fully prepared here. I'm not benching anyone. I'm able to look at my Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And I'm like, yo, I actually have room because I picked up Lafreniere for this week, and then he actually went off, which paid off. I picked up Gabe Perreault, grabbed Gavrikov, just a whole bunch of Rangers, and now I'm prepared. All right, so that's the only thing you're missing. The hot take is that this was a great fantasy week for us.
All right, you heard it here first. Week 22, a terrific fantasy week. Let's move on to lowered expectations. Basically, here we're going to talk about some teams where the situation is not so great. So basically, any team that's running 3 games, 0 off nights, of which there are 16 in this week. It is suboptimal from that perspective, but we'll run through them all here because I do think it is worth talking about what we're doing with some of these players. You're going to have to make some tough decisions if you are going to get to some streaming spots this week. So let's kick it off here. There might be some teams that are pretty cut and dried, but some of them might not be so obvious. Let's talk about Anaheim first. We'll go in alphabetical order here. For me, I'm keeping Cutter Gauthier, Jackson Lacombe, even John Carlson. I know things haven't been perfect there as of yet, but I still think that he can be plenty fantasy relevant and at a premium position on defense as well. Leo Carlson, you're obviously keeping. I think I would drop Truba, Seneca, Terry, Kreider, any of those guys kind of below that line, though. I'd be comfortable with dropping them. Anaheim does come back with a pretty good schedule in week 23, but you got to get there for that to matter. How are you feeling about my choices here, Ryan? Would you push back on any of it?
Yeah, the only thing I'm pushing back on is Troy Terry. I have him in a spot, and I'm finding it hard to cut him loose. And I'm gonna keep a close eye tonight on his minutes, just because like that line, Terry, Carlson, and Kreider. Even Terry came back, had 3 points. He had an assist the other night, and I think I'm gonna have a tough time benching and dropping Troy Terry.
Yeah, for sure. And we should kind of mention this up front. These drops are kind of assuming that you're not actually going to be starting them. If they are like better than the other players, then those are the players you should be looking at potentially dropping, obviously. So that being said, yeah, the reason I included Terry here is because I am still a little bit concerned about him playing through an existing injury. I know he scored a bunch of points in the first game back, and that made everybody feel perfect about him and that there will be no issues whatsoever. It's not always linear like that. It's not always A plus B equals C when it comes to injuries like that. So that is one reason for me, at least, why I kept him there.
He
Let's move
did
on to.
that in he did that in 14 minutes too.
That's true. That's true. All right, let's move on to Calgary. I think this one's pretty cut and dried. I don't think there's anybody on Calgary that you need to be holding through this horrific week. Would you concur, Ryan?
I concur.
Yeah, I don't even know who I would name as like the top guy on Calgary. Like Blake Coleman, Matt Coronado, Zane Parekh. Like he hasn't done
Yeah,
anything
I
yet
don't know.
either. Yeah. So
In super deep leagues, maybe Coronado, but I don't know.
yeah. All right, then let's go on to Colorado. Right here, I am keeping Brock Nelson at the moment. And I think I'm willing to. This is one that I could be convinced on in either direction. I think I'm keeping Brock Nelson. Underlines are still really strong for Brock Nelson. 27th individual expected goals for per 60 over the last 5 games. I think I am willing to drop Nazem Kadri and Valerie Nichushkin if they're not going to make my lineup next week. Colorado is another team that comes back with a big time schedule in week 23, so you do maybe want to consider that and consider holding them over some others who you might be benching. Where are you at with Nelson, Kadri, Nichushkin here, Ryan?
Yeah, I agree with your Nelson and Kadri take. Kadri, like, his first game, he was up on the top line, top power play. That was great. But now he's on the second line with Brock Nelson and seems to not be a main guy on that weirdly poor Colorado power play. So I'd be fine dropping Kadri. I'm keeping Nelson. And right now, Val Nichushkin is skating on a line with McKinnon and Nietzsche as we speak. He's doing it, and he got an assist tonight. Um, so in one spot, I'm making this decision, and I don't know if I'm going to be dropping Val Nichushkin. I might need to, and it's actually funny. The two guys who came up, Troy Terry, Val Nichushkin, it might be one of those guys I need to drop.
Hmm.
And I might listen to you and lean Troy Terry actually.
Yeah, I think if Nichushkin stays there, that's great. We don't really have clear timelines on Landeskog and Lehkonen when they might be back yet. So if either of those guys came back, then that would probably sway me even more towards the side of potentially dropping Nichushkin because we've seen Bednar shake up those lines, feels like every other game over the last month plus. So anyway, that's where I'm at personally. Let's move on to Edmonton. I think you're keeping Zach Hyman here, but I do think you can drop Ryan Nugent Hopkins. I don't know if that's a hot take. I don't feel like it should be. He's averaging under 18 minutes a night over the last 4 games. I feel like there might have been an injury game in there, so I don't want to. I don't want to perjure the man more than he deserves. But I feel like even if Nugent Hopkins, no, there isn't. So for what it's worth, those are all full games that he played. Um, I just think that Nugent Hopkins is pretty unlikely to like bury you if you drop him. Like, I feel like the level of regret you might experience with RNH is probably pretty low. I don't know that he's going to come back and drop a 5 point game in the next game after you drop him or something like that. I think Zach Hyman, with his underlyings still being so good, 42nd shots per 60, 18th individual expected goals for per 60, 31st on ice expected goals for per 60, 20 minutes a night. Those are all the numbers over the last 5 games here. I think I'm hanging on to Hyman. I think I'm dropping RNH. Would you concur, Ryan?
Yeah, I concur, and I am dropping RNH in one league. And yeah, it's really just he's not going to get those crazy multi-point games the way Edmonton's playing right now, and he's not on McDavid's line at even strength where Hyman is. And last game, Nuge put up an almost goose egg. He had just one hit and a block, and 15 and a half minutes of ice time. So I'm fine dropping him.
All right, let's move on to LA then. Over there, I am keeping Adrian Kempe and Brant Clark. I think Clark has proven himself as one of the top D men for fantasy in the league over the last month or two. So I don't think there's any chance you're dropping him. He should be in your lineup every night. I am willing to drop Quentin Byfield, Alex Laferriere. Anze Kopitar has been hot lately, 5 points, 4 goals in his last five, and actually shooting the puck for the first time in forever. But I am just kind of not buying it overall. I think that probably goes away as fast as it came up. And so, yeah, I think that's where I'm at. Would you differ on any of those players, Ryan?
Unfortunately, I'm really actually more excited about Kopitar than you. I think he's found great chemistry with Panarin, and that top line with Kempe is just a great place to be. But yeah, he's center only. You're gonna have a tough time getting him in the lineup Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So you got to drop him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you are counting on him to keep it up, then that's fair. And yeah, like you said, there are some good, really good underlying numbers. I shouldn't really gloss over that. Second, actually, in individual expected goals for per 60 over the last 5 games. Yeah, if he stays with Panarin the entire time, then I believe that something approximating this might be sustainable for him. I just don't know how much I'm willing to buy that. If there's 2 games where they still have some good underlings, but the puck doesn't go in the net, and then all of a sudden it's over before it ever really got started. Yeah, I just feel like I'm not going to pin my fantasy season on Anze Kopitar in his final year. All right, over to Minnesota. Basically, you're keeping the superstars here. You're keeping Boldy, Hughes, Kaprizov. You're doing all that. I do think you can drop Brock Faber. I do think you can drop Joel Eriksson Ek. I do think you can drop Matt Zuccarello if you need to. I should again mention here we have some good underlyings. Zuccarello has actually been shooting the puck, 19th in shots per 60, 31st individual expected goals for per 60, and 6th in on ice expected goals for per 60 over the last 5 games. So he's got some good underlying stuff happening. Brock Faber's underlyings look pretty good as well. So yeah, this is definitely, if you are going to be benching them anyway, then I would be fine to drop them. But if they are becoming more valuable pieces of your lineup, Brock Faber may well be in your top 4D, and you might be rostering 4D plus like a Vladislav Gavrikov for next week for the off night schedule. And you might just be like, there's nobody that I'm going to go pick up that's any better than Brock Faber. If that's your case, absolutely you can hang on to him. Yeah, basically where you at with Minnesota, like
Yeah, yeah.
Faber, Joel Eriksson Ek, especially if Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek are, these injuries keep them out for a little bit. What are we gonna do?
Yeah, for me, I agree with everything you say there. With Eriksson Ek, like right now, you can have him on IR plus, let's say, and on Tuesday you can make that decision. If Kaprizov's back on Tuesday and Eriksson Ek comes back, I think that there might be a decision to keep Eriksson Ek if he's still on that top power play on a line with Matt Boldy. Um, Things haven't gone his way this season, but he's still shooting the puck a ton, getting some good scoring chances. And I'd be inclined to take a look on Tuesday if he's playing and seeing if he's worth taking the IR, taking off the IR plus. Then,
Yeah, makes sense to me. Let's move over to New York with the Islanders. You're keeping Schaefer. I think you're keeping Horvat and Barzal as well, but you can drop everybody else. I did think a little bit longer and harder about Barzal and Horvat than maybe some others might. The thing that kept me on them is both the recent production. Horvat has 4 points in the last five. Barzal has 6 points. Both are skating 21 minutes a night. Horvat is fifth in on ice expected goals for per 60 over the last five, and Barzal is 20th. So those two numbers combined with the recent production is what's keeping me on those Islanders at the moment.
yeah, I'm on as well. Yeah, you can't drop a Horvat. He could the fact that he's a goal scorer on top of it, I think, just is bonus points in all those points leagues. So he's going to score some goals.
All right, let's head over to Pittsburgh then. You're keeping Eric Carlson, who's been on quite the run as of late, actually, turning the clock back there in Pittsburgh. You're keeping Brian Rust, I think. I think you're keeping Evgeny Malkin with his incredible point pace on this season. And you're also going to keep, I think, Ricard Raquel, which may be a bit of a hot take, but Raquel has 6 points in his last five. Are you with me on this one, Ryan?
I actually am now that Crosby's back. I am.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say we're keeping Rust?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the trio. They're back together, and
Yeah.
I can't see you dropping one and not keeping the other.
For sure. The interesting pieces I think that some people will be loath to get rid of will be Anthony Mantha, who has 6 points in his last five, and Yuri Chinnikov, who has 5 assists in his last five. Some good underlyings for both of them. Mantha, 34th shots per 60, 141st individual expected goals for per 60, 41st in on ice expected goals for per 60. Chinikov, 67th shots per 60, 87th individual expected goals for per 60, 110th in on ice expected goals for per 60. But I'm still pretty willing to let those guys go. I just don't know that you're going to start them over guys like Mantha. I think I would probably even start like a Kopitar over these guys, just given the extra minutes and the power play deployment. I think that's where I'm at. Would you differ on that in a deeper league?
No, I'm fine cutting ties, especially looking at who they play. They play Colorado, Ottawa, and Dallas, who are all pretty elite defensive teams who really limit scoring chances and shots in general. So, aside from the top power play, I am fine dropping everyone.
All right. Let's head over to San Jose. Obviously, you're keeping Macklin Celebrini. I do think you can drop everybody else, and that does include Will Smith. That does include Kiefer Sherwood, even with the amount of bangs that he brings to the table. Will Smith has come under fire from Ryan Warsofsky recently. Warsofsky basically implying that he had gifted Will Smith too much leash over some portions of the season, and now it was go time, and he had to figure out how to play like a real man and won some hockey games as San Jose flirts with playoff contention here.
Yeah.
So that's
Just
a tough
paraphrasing.
place. Yeah, a little bit of paraphrasing. I'm pretty sure that was pretty close to the actual quote, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I'm at. Like, I still think the world of Will Smith as a talent, and I think he'll have plenty of terrific seasons, point per game seasons in the NHL alongside Macklin Celebrini. But I am getting pretty worried about this, especially with no points in his last 5 games here, with the ice time declining, getting benched. These things are not things that I'm entertaining in my fantasy playoffs. I'm going with somebody who's at least going to be on the ice when it matters. Kiefer Sherwood, yeah, in a banger Cats, maybe he's making your lineup every night. But if he's not, then I don't think you're hanging on to him. San Jose has a pretty bad schedule until week 24, so I think that's where I'm at with Sherwood. How do you feel about Sherwood, Ryan?
Yeah, I think in Banger Cats League specifically, where you're really counting on Sherwood for your hits to probably get you that category win. I think I'm keeping Sherwood. Just he's having great shots, great hits, and he's getting great minutes. And I mean, I wouldn't count on the points to come, but if I own Kiefer Sherwood, it's for the hits, and so I'm more inclined to keep him in the Bangers leagues. And then yeah, Will Smith. Me and Brian took him to court, and we didn't allow him any defense. We were just two prosecutors on Will Smith, convincing everyone they have to drop him. Um, right after that, he did get 20 minutes again, so maybe he's back in Warsofsky's good books. But yeah, I'm not keeping Will Smith for next week.
No due process for Will Smith anytime soon. Let's head over to St. Louis. Over there, you have to keep Rob Thomas, unfortunately, but you do think you can entertain dropping Dylan Holloway, Jimmy Snuggerud, Jordan Kyrou, basically everybody else at this point. I I don't want to. I mean, the underlines are still all really good for Snuggerud, for Holloway. It all looks good. Good minutes, point per game plus stuff for both of them. Holloway is 35th individual expected goals for per 60. Snuggerud 59th. They're doing all the correct things, but I still don't know that I'm going to play them when it matters over some of these other guys that I might have in my like 12 team leagues. That being said, they do play a few teams next week that you could probably score on: Capitals, Sharks, and Leafs. So there is potentially some value to that. Where are you at, and are you going to differ with me on some St. Louis Blues?
Yeah, the difference here is I'm dropping Rob Thomas as well, and
Ooh.
I'm with you. Like this line, Thomas, Holloway, Snuggerud, they've been amazing, and it's just like you're gonna drop the two goal scorers and keep the setup man in leagues that goals are worth more. I just think that all of these guys are going to end up on my bench all 3 nights. Unfortunately, even how hot they've been, there's just more consistent players I can rely on for the fantasy playoffs that are going to end up on my roster. So I'm fine dropping all of them, keeping in mind St. Louis's schedules for next week might be a little better. So
Yeah.
you gotta have to balance the right now versus the future.
Yeah, I guess you could kind of use that as a tiebreaker, right? If you're deciding between a St. Louis Blue and another player who you're going to keep, maybe you hang on to the St. Louis Blue because in week 23, the Blues do have a perfect 4 games, 4 off night schedule. Seattle, I think, is a pretty open and shut case for me, at least. I think you can drop everybody there. Bobby McMahon has 4 goals and 6 points in his last four, but still 269th in on ice expected goals for per 60. I think actually the more interesting question is, are you dropping Vince Dunn or Brandon Montour here, Ryan?
So I I've never rostered more defensemen than the roster spots. So the defensemen I have, they're my guys I'm starting. But if I am rostering a fifth defenseman, I'm definitely dropping Montour, and yes, I have to drop Vince Dunn as well.
Yeah, I definitely think you can. Yeah, similar to you. If I'm in a spot where they're just my fourth defenseman and I'm not rostering anybody else and it doesn't make sense to roster anybody else, then I'm going to hang on. Vince Dunn, fourth in shots per 60 and eighth in individual expected goals for per 60 over the last five, skating just under 20 minutes a night, so that's down from his usual numbers. Brandon Montour up around 23 minutes a night, 19th shots per 60, 37th individual expected goals for per 60. So not bad numbers there from either player. I think both are generally still valuable fantasy defensemen on the whole. But if they are in a spot where they're making their way onto your bench, then I don't think you need to feel bad about letting them go either. I don't think they're going to pop off and have monstrous weeks in the next week that you're going to really regret losing them for. All right, next up is Utah. Over here, I am keeping Clayton Keller, Mikhail Sergachev, and Dylan Gunther, and I'm willing to drop Mackenzie Weegar, Nick Schmaltz, and Logan Cooley. Ryan, any qualms with my decisions here?
No big qualms. Like Dylan Genther and Logan Cooley and Paterka, I was way more excited about that line than their production has manifested. So Dylan Genther, he's scaring me in one spot, and I'm debating dropping him in one spot, but he has such potential to just score from anywhere, and
Mm-hmm.
even without like a good scoring chance, like he can score goals. And if I drop him, I know he's going to score 4 goals in those 3 games, with no assists, and that's just what's going to happen. So I think I am with you in keeping Genther. I'm fine. Logan Cooley, same thing as Will Smith. He was found guilty because we weren't letting him get a defense. So you have to drop Logan Cooley. He's off the top power play, and just that even strength line hasn't done enough. And yeah, Mackenzie Weegar just hasn't gotten offensive opportunities since he's joined Utah. So that's fine by me, and I'm fine dropping Schmaltz as well.
Yeah, one more thing to note on Utah. They, along with Nashville, play only 2 games, both on heavier nights in week 23. So it's not like it gets better after this week for your Utah players. So if you are thinking about it, you could maybe use that as a tiebreaker and head towards dropping one of your Utah players. Over to Vancouver. And honestly, I think I'm willing to drop everybody here as well. Elias Pettersson, Phil Hronik are probably the two guys you could make a case for continuing to roster. Maybe Brock Besser in some pretty deep leagues. But yeah, I think more than likely you're going to be just fine dropping anybody from Vancouver. I say Brock Besser because he does have 7 points in his last 5 games. I don't know how sustainable that is, but I want to shout the man out. He's had a tough go of it.
Yeah, good job, Brock. But you're going to the waiver wire. If anything, I'm keeping Marco Rossi over Elias Pettersson at the
Mm.
moment. But no, I'm dropping everyone.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty open and shut. Yeah, Phil Hronik is probably the closest one for me, actually, because he's skating 25 minutes a night and, yeah, has occasional weeks where he'll score 2 or 3 points for you. Over to Vegas then. Obviously, you're keeping Jack Eichel, Mitch Marner, Tomas Hertl, and Mark Stone. Pavel Dorofeyev might be on the bubble for some people, but he's had a few nights again in recent memory where he's had some big totals. And yeah, it's just one of those guys who could really make you regret dropping him. I think you want him in your lineup. You want his potential to put up a really big score on any given night and actually help you secure that win. So I think I'm hanging on to Dorofeyev. I am willing to drop Shea Theodore if that matters for my fantasy team, though. Your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, Dorofeyev seems to be that guy who goes 2 games with nothing and then makes up for it all in one game, and scores 2 goals against an assist. So I like that explosion is what you do want in the fantasy playoffs. Even the risk that he gives you no points, I'm keeping Dorofeev. And then yeah, similar like Shea Theodore, he's gonna do what you expected him to do lately, which is not much. So if he's your fifth defenseman and you might bench him, it's time to cut him loose.
For sure. Over in Washington, I am personally going to keep hanging on to Jacob Chikrin and Tom Wilson, but I am willing to drop Alex Ovechkin and Dylan Strome, Alexei Protas, all those guys. Ovechkin is obviously the most contentious one here. I just like, what have you done for me lately? A little bit with Ovechkin. It really does kind of feel like he's playing out the string this year, and this could be it for Ovechkin. He had another 4 shots tonight, but 13:29 in ice time tonight. That has trended down pretty significantly over the course of the season. just over 15 minutes average time on ice in the 5 games prior to this. Still fourth in individual expected goals for per 60. Obviously, that number gets juiced a little bit by the fact that such a high percentage of his minutes come on the power play these days. But still, I think that this is your fantasy playoffs. He's not feeling it right now. He is a goal scorer. We all know goal scorers run hot and cold. Could he bury me for this take? Absolutely. It's Ovechkin. He absolutely could. But I think I'm there. I think I'm willing to do it if I think it's the best thing for my roster next week.
Yeah, just ruthless dropping Alex Ovechkin. No, I'm gonna defend Alex Ovechkin here and keep him on my team for the next week. It just, yeah, like he's not feeling it. He's feeling shot attempts. He's second in shot attempts for 60 again per 60 with Alex Ovechkin. He's not getting a ton of minutes, but I'm not too worried about that because he has 0 defensive zone starts this year, which will set a record actually in the NHL if he continues to do that for the full season. If he has 0 starts in the defensive zone, which is hilarious. But yeah, out of his 15 minutes a night, 4 of them are on the power play. So Alex Ovechkin is a guy who can make you regret it if you drop him with just a nice burst of goals in a week. So I'm keeping him.
All right. Winnipeg is the last team with 3 games, 0 off nights. Pretty obvious you're keeping Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Josh Morrissey. I think it's also pretty obvious that you can drop Gabe Velarde and Cole Perfetti. Am I wrong, Ryan?
You're not wrong. They got Alex Iafallo up on that first line instead of Velarde, so I'm with you there.
All right. I think that concludes that. There are 3 teams with 3 games played in 1 off night. Toronto, Carolina, and Detroit. Toronto plays on the Wednesday off night, Detroit on the Friday off night, Carolina on the Sunday off night. So not great schedules, but yeah, maybe if you've got a Toronto player on your roster that you're thinking about dropping, maybe hang on to them to get that Wednesday off night first. That is the kind of fantasy week we're dealing with. Something to consider at least. Let's move over to crossing the streams. Your favorite segment here, Ryan. Are you ready to do it?
Oh, I'm ready. I've just been having stream showers this whole time. I'm ready to cross it.
All right, let's cross it the way the New York Rangers do. 4 games played, 4 off nights this week. They are a godsend in an otherwise barren wasteland of fantasy streaming goodness. As we mentioned, Alexis Lafreniere has been on fire. He's still available in some leagues, surprisingly. And if that's your league, you absolutely need to go out and make sure that Lafreniere is rostered and we get him over this 50% mark. He's still at 47% as of this moment. Will Cooley, Vladislav Gavrikov, Gabe Perreault, Braden Schneider, Will Borgen in Bangers Leagues, Ty Cartier in Bangers Leagues. Anybody here that you really want to highlight, Ryan? We've obviously talked about these guys a fair bit in recent weeks.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's on laugh. I mean, everyone who listens to us is on laugh already. And Gabe Perreault is, having some good even strength deployment, but no longer getting that power play. He's still worth a roster spot for sure. I mean, all these Rangers are. I do want to highlight Gavrikov, who you're basically getting a free game each day here, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, and you might be leaning like, oh yeah, I should just look at the forwards because forwards are usually more valuable than defensemen. But Gavrikov is looking good lately. He has 2 goals and 4 points in his last five. He's getting tons of minutes, 22 over 22 minutes average time on ice, and he's getting some scoring chances. He's 24th in individual scoring chances for per 60 over his last 5 games. So Gavrikov is a guy I'm ranking over like Kartai and actually Will Cooley. If it's between Cooley and Gavrikov on your waiver wire, I might actually stream Gavrikov.
Yeah, honestly, I don't hate that. Cooley has been really, really cold as of late. No points in his last five, 354th in shots per 60, 370th in on ice expected goals for per 60. Just nothing happening offensively when Will Cooley is on the ice. So that is a name that I think a lot of people were excited to have on their rosters for this week, but may not pan out that way. Most recently seen on a line with Vincent Trocheck and Taylor Radish. I think, yeah, I like Lafreniere, I like Perot, I like Gavrikov, and then it really starts to fall off after that.
Yeah, and
All right.
I mean Ty Kartai, like he'll get you some hits. So if you're in a cats league and want a free games, some free games for hits, like that might be a play if it's a deep league. He had 4 last game, 3 the game before. And his ice time's kind of all over the place, but he is averaging more than 13 minutes the last little bit.
Yeah, I picked up Ty Cartier in my Bangers Cats League where I have a bye. I'm going to probably play him all week, to be honest with you, unless hits really gets out of control one way or the other. So that is definitely a plan you can make. All right. Two teams with 4 games played and 2 off nights. They are Boston and Chicago. Let's start with Boston here. There are actually some options. Pavel Zacha is one. Had a nice game there the other night. Nikita Zadorov is available in a lot of leagues. Elias Lindholm. Victor Arvidsson is on a nice little run with 5 points in his last 4 games. Mark Kastelich for your bangers leagues, your face-off leagues. Fraser Minton. Got Hampus Lindholm on the back end as a deep league option. Tanner Janot for hits, Casey Middlestat, Murat Kuznetsov. Now you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel. But talk to me about Boston. Anybody striking your fancy here, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm liking this second line with Pavel Zacha and Arvidsson. Zacha does give you the top power play, so he is my top target. And then I would say it's Arvidsson. Yeah, definitely not going Elias Lindholm at the moment, even though he is on the top power play. His third line is not doing too well lately, and his underlines are no good. He's individual scoring chances for 186, on ice scoring chances for 138. Yeah, not for me, Elias Lindholm.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I like Zaka as well at the moment, given his spot, the chemistry that seems to be developing there with Arvidsson. I think I would concur with that. I think Lindholm and Arvidsson are still in a tier for me. I think it's probably decently likely that Lindholm gets back on a line with Pasternak and knocks in a couple points next week as well. So I don't think that he's too far off that. He's still getting 19 and a half minutes a night, so it's not like they've moved away from him, but it is tough to pick up a guy who's got no points in his last 7 games. That's for sure. Fraser Minton, I will shout out, 26th in individual expected goals for per 60 over the last 5 games, has been getting some of that time up there with Pasternak on that line. And so if that continues, that's a look that you might want to make in some deeper leagues. I will say Boston's schedule makes it a little bit tougher to stomach the pickup here. They have the Wednesday off night and the Sunday off night. So you are kind of stuck holding that player through that time frame, which makes you unable to do something else with the roster spot. So just by virtue of where their off nights fall, they are a little bit tougher to roster than your Chicago Blackhawks, who we'll talk about next. Tyler Bertuzzi is out there in more than 50% of Yahoo leagues. Frank Nazar has been hot lately. Teuvo Teravainen on the top power play. Sam Rinzel, Ryan Donato, Artyom Levshunov, Andrei Burakovsky playing with Bedard. In your super deep spots, maybe you're considering somebody like Ilya Mikheyev, Louis Crevier for some bangs. Andrew Mangiapane, can I convince you, Ryan, in your 22 team, 16 forward roster leagues to roster some Andrew Mangiapane?
I don't know about Andrew Mangiapane in that specific league you're talking about, where there's what 60 teams, 22 roster spots. Um, yeah, I mean, no, I'm not doing Mangiapane. I'm not doing Mikheyev. Yeah, even Levchinov is tough to stomach. I mean, the only way he's going to give you value is if the power play scores and he's touched the puck. So I'm not too excited about him. But yeah, their schedule, with the Friday Sunday. I mean, if you took a Boston guy for that Wednesday game, maybe you drop the Boston guy and go with one of these Blackhawks. The extra games played, that's what we're after here. But I am more excited about Bertuzzi and Nazar and even Teravainen in that I might go Nazar above Bertuzzi. Uh, just they're all in the top power play and they're all in an even strength line together where they have been playing pretty well for Chicago Blackhawks even strength minutes relative to everyone else. They're actually pretty in line with their competition at 5-on-5.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would go Nazar first. 3 goals, 5 points. His last five. They are currently playing against the Avalanche, and the only marker we have from them is Wyatt Kaiser from Ryan Green and Sam Renzel. So mark that down in your notebooks at home. Tyler Bertuzzi only has a couple points in his last five. Both he and Nazar are skating over 19 minutes a night, which is obviously pretty decent. Teravainen, you're really just hoping for some power play assists, basically. Sam Renzel's minutes have dropped off recently, and Artem Levshunov's minutes have risen with him replacing Renzel on power play one. That could easily flip back next week, and it wouldn't be surprising at all. So that's probably a wait and see thing for me. I'm not going to go out and add either of those guys early this week. I would wait until the Friday, and if somebody else goes out and gets them before then so be it. I don't think I'm going to be missing out too much there. Burakovsky is playing with Bedard, but that has not been nearly as lucrative recently as it was at the beginning of the season. And he's not doing a whole heck of a lot himself. 381st in shots per 60 over the last 5 games. So yeah, I think it is Nazar for sure at the top of the list. Then Bertuzzi, then Teravainen for me. Buffalo is next up. 3 games played, 2 off nights. This one's a little bit easier to stomach because Buffalo goes Wednesday and Friday. So as I mentioned, you can maybe you've got that Ottawa streamer that you're hanging on to get the Monday off night, and then you flip that into a Buffalo for Wednesday, Friday. Then you close it out with some goalie streams over the weekend. Something like that could really work out for you. So Buffalo has tons of options, as we know. On defense, you got Bowen Byram, Owen Power as potential players that could fit into some games for you. Up front, you got a host of options: Josh Stone, Josh Norris, Ryan McLeod, Jason Zucker, Jack Quinn. Zach Benson has been getting some looks with Tage Thompson. Peyton Krebs has been up there. Beck Mallenstein, I'm not sure how you say it, honestly. But for your hits, he's definitely a good option as well in Banger's Cats. So lots of options in Buffalo. Talk to me about Brent.
Yeah. With I mean, Alex Tuck, he missed a game with an illness, so definitely keep an eye on him and the lines. But in terms of the even strength lines, I'm loving Josh Doe and Josh Norris connection. They're playing with Noah Ostlund. It's like a third line right now, but they are outchancing their competition more than the second line of Jason Zucker, McLeod, and Jack Quinn. So it's really like that first line of Thompson, Tuck, Krebs, and that third line that interests me at even strength. And then they do give power play 2 plenty of time, like a little more than they should, I think. And they have Alex Tuck there. So for me, I'm targeting. I mean, Doan and Norris are on the top power play. I'm targeting both of them here as my top picks, and then I would look at Zucker because he is on that top power play as well and has had some good success. And yeah, I'm not really interested at the moment in McLeod, Quinn, Benson, Krebs, or your boy Beck Mallenstein.
Yeah, I think for me, it is a clear top three with Doan, Norris, and Zucker probably in that order. Doan, I would definitely have at the top right now. 43rd shots per 60, 28th individual expected goals for per 60, 32nd on ice expected goals for per 60 over the last 5 games. Those are some good numbers, and obviously it seems to be clicking for that line at the moment, as you mentioned. So I think that's number one for me pretty conclusively. And yeah, Bowen Byram, the points haven't been there. He's been a little bit hot and cold as of late, but I would still be interested in that on the back end. If those top three forwards are all gone, I would consider Byram at that point more in a tier with like McLeod and Quinn and those guys.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, yeah, just a brief mention of Ottawa as an honorable mention for that one game Monday stream. If Thomas Shabbat's still hanging out there, he should be rostered right now with Jake Sanderson being out. But if he is, that's one to look at. Shane Pinto, obviously, Claude Giroux, Michael Mario, Ridley Greig. I don't know how deep you want to go on some Ottawa players, but I will say, like, you could do worse in a scenario where you've got this week lined up or you've got an open spot that opens up with an injury or something. If you have a bye this week, looking ahead to next week, use that ad from this week to get you the one game for Monday. There are worse ways to use an ad from this week to set yourself up. So anybody from Ottawa that you're interested in, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, like this, there are going to be those scenarios out there where on Sunday you're going to be looking at your quarterfinal matchup if you're playing in one, and maybe you're way ahead, and it's like, okay, instead of using my last ad for Sunday, it's time to just grab a free game for Monday from Ottawa. And for me, like it's Claude Giroux playing with Stützle and Batherson right now. He's not doing anything really himself. It's going to be an assist on both those players' goals, I would say. Not really any power play or not top power play time, but I think it's worth the one game free game for Claude Giroux. And then Pinto, I mean, you're looking at the third line here, but for a free game, I'd like Pinto over Amadeo and Greg.
All right. Well, we got to talk about the Apples Ginos Patreon. $2 a month supporter tier gets you Apples Ginos Patron League eligibility. That league has obviously almost run out, but it will be coming back next year, so you can get yourself in there, get into the Patreon over the summer at that lowest tier, and you'll be all set up to go for next year. Apple's tier, $8 a month, gets you APL eligibility, also gets you access to patron-only Discord channels and patron-only live shows. I just did one this past week. So if you sign up at that $8 tier, you'll get instant access to that. Show notes, including the show notes for this one here with all of these ad targets that we're talking about right now, also gets you access to the Apples and Ginos player evaluation tool. You can look at Josh Stone's beautiful lettuce and those terrific underlying stats to match, and you can wonder to yourself what might be if you are able to make it to week 22 of your fantasy playoffs. All right, dream streams. We got to rank these guys now for next week. So basically, I'm only thinking about off nights when ranking these players. So take that into account. Alexis Lafreniere has to be number one with the 4 off nights and the recent hot stretch. Gabe Rowe is going to be number 2 pretty easily for me. And then I am willing to go to the 2 off night streamers. So Pavel Zacha, who we mentioned, Frank Nazar, Tyler Bertuzzi, Josh Doan, Jason Zucker, Josh Norris. Honestly, like, I feel like I would go. I think Zaka and Nazar, maybe Bertuzzi, I would include in a tier. Honestly, it feels kind of like a tier from Zaka all the way down to Norris for me. And then throw in Lindholm, Arvidsson, any of these guys. Will Cooley, I guess, for the 4 games, you could throw in at the bottom here. Gavrikov, as you mentioned, is a good shout as well. And I wouldn't mind going with him over Cooley, to be quite honest with you. But anything from this list that you dislike, that you like, any players that you want to draw an underline under one last time here, Ryan?
Yeah, I think I'm just moving the Buffalo guys up on my list, right under the Rangers. So Josh Doan, Jason Zucker, Josh Norris, to me, are right under Laugh and Perot, above the Bruins and the Blackhawks, just because Buffalo's off nights happen earlier. They got 2 off nights happening Wednesday, Friday. With Boston, you got it on Wednesday, and then what are you doing? You're holding until Sunday. With Chicago, you're waiting until Friday for their first off night. So, first of all, I like most of those Buffalo players just for a one nighter. I like them better, and their off nights are sooner, so I like them.
All right, good stuff there. Best for hits, Will Cooley is still doing that, 2.9 hits per game played in his last 14 days. Ty Karche at 2.5. Noah Laba is out currently, so check his injury status, but 2.4 hits per game played for him. Braden Schneider, Will Borgen, they do that as well. Best for blocks, obviously looking at ranges again here. Braden Schneider, Will Borgen, Vlaslav Gavrikov hasn't been doing much of that lately, but has been a blocks guy in the past, so I'd still consider him as a reasonable block streamer for next week. And Taylor Radish actually has 1.2 blocks per game played over his last 14 days in your deepest of Bangers Cats leagues. You could look that way. All right, stashes for people who have a bye. So obviously we are talking here about people who have a bye for week 22 and finish out their fantasy playoffs in weeks 23 and 24. We've got a number of teams here to go over, so I'll run through the teams here quickly. First, San Jose plays 11 games, 6 off nights over weeks 23 through 24. 4 games, 2 off nights, week 23. 7 games, 4 off nights, week 24. Then you've got St. Louis with 10 games played and 5 off nights in total. 4 games, 4 off nights, week 23. 6 games, 1 off night, week 24. Anaheim plays 9 games in 5 off nights. 4 games, 3 off nights, week 23. 5 games, 2 off nights, week 24. Colorado, 10 games played, 4 off nights. 4 games played, 3 off nights in week 23. 6 games, 1 off night, week 24. Vancouver plays the same, 10 games, 4 off nights, but they go 4 games, 2 off nights in week 23, 6 games, 2 off nights in week 24. And lastly, Pittsburgh, 9 games played, 3 off nights. They go 5 games played and 2 off nights in week 23, which is unique, and 4 games, 1 off night in week 24. So, talking about San Jose here, Tyler Toffoli, as we mentioned, is out for Saturday, so his injury status is something you're going to have to keep in mind here, but that actually might make it for a nice spot to throw him on your IR Plus and just kind of stash him there as kind of an extra stash for this upcoming week. If this is you with a bye in week 22, looking ahead to week 23, maybe you can do something there. I wouldn't hate that. William Eklund, as mentioned, we all know the talent after watching him score that ridiculous goal, and so that might be something to look at as well. I want to highlight, obviously, St. Louis here, Dylan Holloway and Jimmy Snuggles. If you have a way to get yourself to week 23 in any league, then they will be super valuable for that week 23 with 4 games and 4 off nights. I'll take a pause there, Ryan. Talk to me about San Jose, St. Louis, anybody that you like there.
Yeah, I got nothing to add there. I'm as excited as you about Snuggles and Holloway. So I would try to prioritize those two above all if you can.
All right, and for Anaheim here, I think we got to look out for those players if they are dropped with this 3-game, 0 off night schedule this week. Same goes for Colorado as well, but yeah, Troy Terry comes to mind, Chris Kreider comes to mind as the 2 guys in Anaheim I'd be the most excited about if they got dropped in week 22. And then Devon Taves, I think, is somebody who could have some fantasy relevance here, especially as a defenseman. Realistically, all the top guys there in Colorado are going to be rostered. But again, if a Kadri, if a Nichushkin, if a Nelson even gets dropped from Colorado because of the 3-game, 0 off night schedule, those are guys that you should look out from Colorado as well. And lastly, with Vancouver and Pittsburgh, like I said, Phil Hronik is probably the guy with the most interest for me. Brock Besser is scoring points right now, so that might be a guy that you could throw onto your bench for now and just see how the next week goes. And if he's able to keep things up and things are looking good under the hood, maybe have something there. In Pittsburgh, with that 5 games played in week 23, that's going to be actually pretty interesting. So again, you could go heavy here with Mantha, Chinikov as the top 2 guys. Any notes on these teams, Ryan?
Yeah, just also point out with Colorado, if you are stashing someone, take a look at Landeskog and or Lehkonen. If they've been dropped, put them on your IR, and maybe they'll return at the perfect time for you next week.
Good shout there. Long-term plays in net. So basically just looking for anybody who can give you a little bit of volume at this point in the season. Dan Vladar still doing that. Jakub Dobish there in Montreal. Joel Hofer for St. Louis, especially that week 23. As we've mentioned, UPL and Alex Lyon forming that tandem in Buffalo. So you kind of have to pick your week and try to figure out which games each goalie is going to play. But definitely valuable options the way that Buffalo's going. And Connor Ingram, Edmonton is kind of limping to the final here, but theoretically it's still a good spot for Connor Ingram to pick up at least a couple starts each week here, and that might be all you need in some of your leagues. All right, we got to close it out with the head-to-head streamer deathmatch. And this week, I picked Alex Lafreniere, and that is going swimmingly for me. 17.5 APL points so far with one game left to play. Blake took Cole Perfetti, 9.15 points with 2 games left for Winnipeg this week. So we'll see how it shapes out, but happy with my choice there. Happy that honestly. And next week, Blake let me know that he is willing to take on Elias Lindholm, which I promptly laughed at, and then I took Frank Nazar. So what do you think, Ryan? You're an impartial third party here. You're well acquainted with the fantasy court. Make a ruling here. Frank Nazar or Elias Lindholm for next week?
Oh man, I think my ruling is that Blake, I'm going to protect you here. You need to be in person to make your pick. So I'm protecting you and saying, Elias Lindholm, you're not allowed because it's a terrible pick. Don't do that.
All right. Roasting him while he's not even here. You gotta love it. All right. Well, if you made it to the end of this episode, you should probably click the link in the description, join the Discord community, come talk about your fantasy hockey playoffs with the only other people on the planet who actually care about that in our Discord server. While you're here, like, rate, review, subscribe, comment, whatever you can do really does help us out. That is going to be all that we've got for this episode. Hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick and 18 Skaters. Many thanks to Matt Creamer for supplying the music for the podcast. That's it, folks. Much love.